The Gopher Coaches Show is presented by Window Concepts and Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union. Now, it's the Gopher Coaches Show with Dawn Plitzerwhite and Ben Johnson.
Welcome into the Gopher Coaches Show. I'm Ahmad Hicks alongside Justin Garr and men's head basketball coach Ben Johnson. It's hard to believe it, but March is here. This is our final episode of the Gopher Coaches Show. So, Coach Johnson, I want you to tell me about your recent stretch of games that you guys have had. You've hit another rough patch this season, but what are you telling your team as you guys get ready for the Big Ten tournament?
Yeah, I think the tournament brings new life. It's the completion of a part of your season, a part of your year, and it's the beginning of something new. And there's still a lot to be played for. So the motivation is going to be really high. I think it's really cool that, this year we have it here. So that's going to be something new. Hopefully our fan base comes out and supports and really creates a really good environment. But we'll be excited. I know, you want to be playing your best basketball as the year's coming to an end. And so we'll look to get right back on the right page.
How do you wipe the slate clean from that Northwestern loss? Because that's something that Coach Plitzerwhite talked about in their last two games. They got beat up pretty good, but they wiped the slate clean to get a win in the first round. So how are you telling your guys to move forward?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, it's kind of do or go home, and you don't know what your future is. You want to be able to play in postseason if possible, and so you got to be able to clean the slate, and you got to be able to learn from the last two games and this last week. I think the urgency will be high, so that'll be good. Neutral court, you're not playing on the road, which is always tough this year in league. But it's a new challenge. There's a different vibe when you walk into the arena, and so I think that'll create excitement on its own.
How much does it help to have a guy like Dawson who's been through it a little bit now, and obviously he's been through it here as well, played really well against Northwestern, really was the one guy that had it going in the first half. What has he meant here the last couple of weeks?
No, he did. I think, his leadership, guy that doesn't want it to end. His play kind of speaks for itself in terms of that way. Being an upperclassman, you understand the maturity that it takes, especially this time of year. Everything's heightened. Everybody's playing for something. And so it takes those older guys. You got to be able to lean on them from that leadership standpoint about how you got to act and how you got to perform in these type of games.
He's been leading this team all season long, but another guy who's been doing that, Elijah Hawkins. It seems like sometimes, though, when we talk about point guards, they have to play with the controlled aggression. You want them to be aggressive, driving to the paint to score, but you also want him to play under control. How would you assess Elijah's play heading down the stretch in Big Ten play, and where do you think he can improve as the tournament gets started, should I say?
Yeah, I think it's been solid. I think, again, as the year progresses, taking more ownership. He knows what we want to do offensively, and so now it's getting us into a rhythm sooner, a little bit quicker. But his demeanor, his poise, his pace really dictates, and I thought he's done a pretty good job of that as of late. Obviously different teams guard him differently. Some guys go under ball screens. Sometimes teams go over the top. But this time of year, he understands how he's got to perform, how he's got to play. And to me, it's just that demeanor. What's his approach like, especially to start games?
Cam Christie is not sneaking up on anybody anymore. I'm sure he's moved up the scouting report list throughout the Big Ten. So what has been difficult for him the last handful of weeks, and how do you get him back going?
Yeah, I think just that. When you're on the front of the scouting report, he's going to get the bigger physical type of defender. Probably their best guy that's off the ball, that's not guarding the point. And again, when you're 18-year-old freshman, those guys are kind of foaming at the mouth. And when you're talked about 2 or 3 days leading up to the game, it's a different type of challenge. The defense is ready for you, so you're not sneaking up on anybody. And, it's a little bit of an adjustment because different teams will guard you differently. But it's as simple as also just seeing one go in. Right. I think for a lot of our guys, whether that's a three or whether that's an individual play, a free throw, just seeing something go in breeds confidence.
Well, that's kind of where I wanted to go next. People focus on Cam because he's been so great, but other than really Dawson and a little bit Elijah, the offense as a whole has kind of struggled the last week. So is it a matter of, well, I think Chris Collins even said it at halftime of your game, it's a lot easier when shots go in. The plays look good, everybody feels good. It can be that simple sometimes.
Yeah, it is, especially, again, this time of year where you're rarely going to fool a team, maybe here or there, but they know what we're running, we know what they're running. And so it comes down to execution and being able to, can you make plays? Can the ball go in the basket? And it's a two-way street. When the ball doesn't, it seems like it's impossible to make a shot, right? When one or two go in, whether it's a free throw, a layup, a three, now it seems like, okay, we're rolling, and we've seen our team be able to go on a streak where, we feel like every shot's going in. And so continue to take good ones, because good ones go in, and then once they do, let's snowball in a positive way.
Coach, injuries have been a story throughout your entire career here in Minnesota, but it seems like you guys are somewhat healthy yet. Braden Carrington, Joshua Ola-Joseph go down with injuries. What's their status like as you guys get ready for tournament play?
It was good to get Braden back. Braden's back, feeling better, feeling healthy. To add him to the guard rotation is very needed, so it's good to get him back. Josh will be day-to-day. Hopefully, by the time we're ready to go this week, that he'll be ready. It's part of the course of the journey of the season. We've been fortunate this year. I think we've been pretty healthy for the most part. And so you just know through the course of the season there's going to be injuries here or there. You just got to be able to have your depth and withstand them. And again, we should be hopefully looking forward to being fully healthy come Thursday.
On the topic of no surprises, your opponent on Thursday is Michigan State. You've already played them twice this year, split those matchups. Tom Izzo's been coaching for 50 years, has been doing the same thing since you and I were in high school. No surprise with the Spartans. 11 o'clock, I'm bringing my oldest. He's getting out of school. Yours can too. Not a big deal. It's March. You got to do things. What do we need to know about the Spartans? What's important with this matchup?
It's, from our standpoint, it's good that we got the split. Because there's a lot of things you can show on film from both games that worked and that were successful. And this time of year, you obviously worry about your opponent, but in quick turnarounds or in a tournament-type format, you just got to worry about, all right, what do we also need to do to be really good to win this game? And so it's good to be able to fall back, especially last game we had success here at home. I think it's a pretty good matchup for us. Obviously, they're a team that, throughout the year, as I felt like progressively gotten better and more comfortable in who they are. They have good players. They got older players that don't want it to end. So there's going to be urgency. Obviously, when you have a Hall of Fame coach that's been through it, he knows what it takes not only to be successful in the Big Ten, but in NCAA tournament-type format. So you've got to be ready for that. And I think the details that go into winning now, it's win or go home, so everything's heightened. And you just got to put a point of emphasis on that.
What does it mean when a coach like Tom Izzo shouts out your team and says after a loss that that's an NCAA tournament team? They're a really good team moving forward.
Well, it feels good from the standpoint of obviously he knows. You've been doing it for a long time, and he knows what good teams look like. And you just try to emphasize that with your program, that there's games you could lose where you're still playing good basketball. There's obviously games you could lose where you did not play good basketball. But I think the team needs to see that. They need to know that It's a journey, and our goals are still our goals, and we just need to be getting on a hot streak here late. But when we play the right way for us, it's conducive to winning, and everybody sees it, and they need to see it, and they need to believe it.
All right. Well, speaking of goals, your guys' goal is to do good in the Big Ten tournament and punch a berth into the NCAA tournament. But some other guys on this team have goals outside of basketball, and we're going to be talking about that on the other side of the break. Jack Wilson talks about his journey to Minnesota and how he's preparing for life after basketball. You'll want to hear his story next.
You're watching the Gopher Coaches Show.
Yeah, we're rising up.
Welcome back to the Gopher Coaches Show. I'm Ahmad Hicks, Justin Garr, Coach Ben Johnson. Coach Johnson, you know very well about playing collegiate sports and then having to prepare for life after basketball. For you, what was that journey like?
Well, when you're a senior, you don't feel like it's going to ever end, and then the reality hits you. And so, like, the last month, it is a little bit of a panic thinking about, all right, I want to finish the year, but, like, what am I doing next?
Right.
Like, what are the steps? What do I want to do? How am I going to get there? So there's a little bit of anxiety with that. You're trying to balance being able to concentrate and win games and finish right. But then there is a selfish part where you want to know, all right, what's my next adventure? And so I know guys are going through that a little bit. The best, I guess, advice I have is just worry about the now.
Yep.
And then once it's over, we have time to get together and meet with those guys and help them in any way that we can.
Well, there's one player on your team. He's focused on the now right now and hopefully trying to win as many games as possible, but he's also setting up his life for after basketball. I'm talking about Jack Wilson, and I want to share his story with you all and how he got here to Minnesota. Take a listen. All right, so Jack, before you became this physical specimen, you played basketball. Tell me about where you started your college career.
Started over at University of Idaho, so I was just playing ball there. Spent about 3 seasons with those guys before moving on. So.
When you went to Idaho, how tall and how big were you?
Same height. I think I was listing myself at like 7 foot back then.
Okay.
But yeah, like technically 6'11". Shoot, I was weighing probably like 235.
235?
Yeah, I was pretty skinny.
So you added on a freshman 15 and some. How much weight did you gain your freshman year?
Oh, I was pretty consistent all throughout basketball. Maybe like 10 pounds throughout those years, but the big weight gain didn't really come until football.
6'11", and you never played football until college.
Correct.
How's that possible?
Genetics, hard work, you know.
How did you finally get on a football field? Who recruited you? Who convinced you to put on the pads?
It started out with my love for strength and conditioning. I was going to intern for the football team over at Washington-St because they're real close to University of Idaho. And that just turned into playing. By that point, I'd finished my 3rd season. I was doing all like bodybuilding type lifts, so I was looking a lot bigger, probably more capable. It never would have happened if it wasn't for that time in the weight room. Yeah, they said, you can intern, but we'd love you to play.
Oh,
yeah.
So what position did you play?
I came in, we were thinking probably like a DN. They didn't have a tight end in the offense at that time. And then as things progressed, they were like, hey, you know, with your length, you could do some things at tackle. And so we ended up making the switch, and that's where I stayed for the rest of those 2 years.
How much weight did you gain after going over to play football at Washington State?
My first day, I weighed in 275.
Okay.
Because that was all weight I had gained just through my own lifting.
Yeah.
And then by the time I was at, you know, fall camp for that last season, it's about 340, so it's a lot of weight.
340 pounds?
Yeah.
How did you move with that weight that you put on?
It was decently good weight. I mean, we had great nutritionists, great plan laid out for me, and my frame held it pretty well.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's just a different type of athlete playing O-line. So, you know, still had enough lateral quickness, but it's shorter spurts, and you get by with that.
And I saw you went pretty viral for your uniform photo with the Cougars.
Yeah.
What was that moment like?
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's always fun to do that kind of stuff. You know, I'm always like, what are they picking me for? But it works. I guess the big guy, you know, at the time I had like a crazy mullet and everything. So that'll do it.
Where'd your love for weightlifting begin? You said before you went to Washington State, you put on all this weight, you were doing all these Olympic-style lifts. What sparked that?
I would say my experiences in the weight room just throughout basketball, it became like this kind of more controllable variable where you see just as much as you put into it, you're going to get good product out.
Right.
And it was just kind of like a peaceful thing for me. It was separate from the court, which I had spent my whole life on. You know, there were some stressors attached to that at that point. And I just felt a sense of freedom, and you know, you can let loose, throw some weight around, get angry at it, and it's pretty cool.
So after a couple of years playing football for the Cougars, you decided to go back to basketball. What was that transition like, and how hard is it to go from football to basketball?
Yeah, that was a crazy time. Originally, we thought I was going to have another year of football, but the NCAA came back and said, you know, so I'm using my COVID year now.
Yep.
They said you can only use your COVID year in the sport you were in during COVID, which was basketball for me.
Got it.
So at the time, you know, it was kind of sad, whatever, but the men's basketball coach at Washington State caught wind, who I had a history with because he recruited me from a different school.
Yeah.
And, you know, the whole coaching web. But, yeah, he mentioned the opportunity, and I was pretty hesitant at first, but got back onto the court for a little individual workout and was like, man, I might have caught the bug. So,
you missed it, huh?
Yeah, I did.
So how did you land up here in Minnesota?
Shoot, I just, you know, didn't think I was going to do anything with it, but as the year progressed, I got some time on the court, decent enough film. I was a better athlete when I cut some of that, you know, O-line weight, we like to call it, some of that fluff. I ended up being a better athlete because of the training than I was before.
Wow.
So I had some things to offer in that sense. And, you know, just from a maturity standpoint, I think that was something that helped me out in that recruiting process. Being an older guy, somebody with good experience that could help these guys out, and that's how I ended up here, really.
How much weight did you drop from football to basketball?
Now I'm sitting at about 285, so,
Jeez.
you know, whatever, 50, 60 pounds.
Oh,
yeah.
my God. Do you ever get mistaken for the strength and conditioning coach anywhere you go?
I have a couple times. People at least ask, but yeah, I think our big dog coach fella, he's pretty known, so it's hard to get us confused.
Do you think you can take him in the weight room?
Oh, he's got me on a good amount of lifts, but it's motivation.
It's all about technique and stuff, right?
Right.
He has
Yeah,
that technique,
for sure,
right?
for sure. Yeah, I got height I'm dealing with, right? Yeah.
For you, what do you hope to get out of your basketball career in these next couple of months, and what's your future hold?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten so much from being a part of this team. The coaches, staff, all my teammates are incredible. Coming in, I really just wanted to solidify a lot of these lessons I've learned just as a man, really, and be a mature guy that people can look up to and, you know, set an example in that way. And that's been really rewarding. Okay. And as the season progresses, just continue to love on these guys and, you know, just be who I am, really, and, you know, really solidify that and be a good teammate and just produce however I can and moving forward. I'm going to work to get an internship spot here with men's and women's basketball and get on the path of coaching. So.
Okay. So now you're going to go from playing with these guys to trying to tell them what to do in the weight room. Do you think they're going to be receptive and listening to you?
You know, I think there's a balance. You know, I can't just go out there and be a jerk, but I think I've earned enough respect to where they'll hear me out.
Okay. Well, last question that I have for you, it's a pretty funny one. Is there anyone on your basketball team that can come close to what you're doing in the weight room?
I mean, we got really strong guys. Pharrell and Josh, they squat a lot of weight. Is it the same amount? No. but they're strong guys.
If they were around right now, what would they say? Would they say that they could take you in something?
You know, I don't think they would.
Okay.
I think they would get competitive and maybe try and make up a lift that they could beat me in, but I think we all know.
Has there ever been a moment where Coach Johnson, he typically may yell at a player, has there ever been a moment where he was hesitant to yell at you because of how intimidating you are?
Oh, you'd have to ask him. I don't know. Maybe.
Okay, I'll have to ask him that when we're done. Well, I appreciate your time. Good luck
thank
with
you,
everything, man.
Well, Jack asked, we'll have to ask Ben, have you ever hesitated to yell at him because of what might happen to you physically?
No. No. When you're in the moment, when you're at that level, you kind of space out. You don't realize maybe who you're yelling at
right.
at the time. You're just getting it off your chest. But no, there's been no hesitation. And one thing about Jack that I love is, so coachable.
Yeah.
And wants to be coached each and every day.
Is he allowed to set screens in practice?
He is. He is.
That's dangerous, I feel like.
Allowed to set screens.
Yeah.
Want him to set screens.
Yeah,
want him to
that's
set
true.
the tone. I
Yeah.
think that's something that he's been really good at this year is just elevating the intensity in practice and making life hard for Dawson and Pharrell and Parker. His efforts have made those guys better without question.
One of the cool things, I'm sorry, Matt, is having him at the senior day post-game media with Parker and with the other guys. I thought it spoke really well to just like the vibe of the whole group that Parker said, let's bring everybody up, or whoever said, let's bring everybody up. Seemed like a cool deal.
Yeah, we have an extremely close team, and I think those guys truly understand that everybody matters in our program and that we didn't have the success we had this year if it weren't for the efforts of everybody. And so, they want to make sure that those guys get the same amount of love.
Quick question, Coach, before we have to go to our final TV timeout. Have you ever had a basketball player on your team or a player that you coach that can squat over 500, deadlift over 500, and bench over 400 pounds?
I haven't. Not all those. No, I haven't. I've had some guys that have been pretty strong, but what he's able to do in the weight room is a different level. And, give him a ton of credit. He works hard at it every day.
Yeah, he almost took my hand off when I shook his hand and introduced myself for the first time. Pretty strong guy right
like
there.
It's bending right there.
I know, right? That's the story of Jack Wilson. We have to go to our final TV timeout, but when we come back, we're talking the Big Ten tournament and the Michigan State Spartans. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Gopher Coaches Show.
Welcome back to the Gopher Coaches Show, our final block with Coach Johnson. And I want to ask you, Coach, last season was tough. You guys struggled to win many games. You turned it around this season. How proud of you are your team and what they were able to accomplish so far this season?
Yeah, extremely. I think the growth that we've shown from the beginning to now has been really good for our program to take the next step and to move the needle. Our player development guys have gotten better this year. They've gotten experience. They've gotten confidence. That's obviously translated to some good wins. And so now you want to end the season on the right note. But to not be in the playing game in the Big Ten tournament was a major step. To be close to 500 in the league was a major step. And so all of these experiences are good for our guys going forward.
And we won't talk again until next season. So what is the next step? You know, Michigan State obviously Thursday, but once this season's done, like now that you've got it on firm footing here, where do you want to take it?
Yeah, obviously, you want to see how far you can take it this year, and that starts with got to win on Thursday. We'll embrace any type of postseason play. Obviously, that'd be a good thing for our guys. It's motivation and also, again, more experience playing in any type of tournament. NCAA is the first goal, so we'll see what we can do this week. But then you just want to have this momentum carry into the offseason.
Right.
And everybody's motivated to get better. Guys got to get stronger. They got to get better with their game. Probably add a couple pieces in the offseason. But I love where we're at. I love the stage where we're at. Get these guys to all come back and have a really fun year next year.
Coach, final 30 seconds of the show. Benefits of playing in the Big Ten tournament in Minneapolis.
Hopefully the main one is just the crowd and the atmosphere. It's been in other cities where a team might be close, but not as close as literally downtown,
right?
And not far from our campus. And so, hopefully we can play well and advance, and as we do, build that crowd more and more as the tournament goes on and use that to our advantage.
All right, you heard it from Coach Johnson. The Gophers take on Michigan State with the first game on Thursday. We hope you guys are watching then. Until then, have a great week. We'll see you all next season.